together, and he put everything together, and it was yeah, it was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Pretty neat. The 2017 Take Back Your Power is the one you want to watch. That one is definitely the best one because I'm in it. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, hey, thanks everyone. So we'd like to start now, just so everybody gets some time. And thank you, Ellie, for that feedback, and everyone else who's kind of told us where you're from. And so we appreciate you coming on. We're very honored to have you all from all over the place. And so today is, just for the record, October 3rd. It is 7 p.m. Eastern. This is the Power Couple EMF free webinar series. We are joined by Paul Harding of Total EMF Solutions. Now, Paul was with us on our last Electro Health RX course, or EMF 101 course, and he did a couple webinars for our students. I was introduced to Paul on a call with the National Health Federation that Charles Frohman runs. And Paul had mentioned a few things about grounding that kind of piqued my interest. And Patricia Burke of Safe Deck International also introduced me to Paul. And when I saw his video of measuring EMF in the middle of a desert in Arizona, I thought, well, nobody else is talking about this. Everybody's just talking about being barefoot and having a good time. But I knew there was more to the issue. And Paul really, his message was honest. And especially in this field, it's hard to find honest people. So I'm just so honored to have all of you here, and Paul as well. So thank you, Paul, for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Hopefully we can answer some questions and get this stuff figured out.
Absolutely. So yeah, Paul, is there any kind of screen you wanted to share? Or?
Well, yeah, it's one that really, I'm gonna pull this up here. I'm gonna try to anyway. You ready? Here we go. It didn't work that well last time, so we're gonna try it this time.
Worked out just fine.
Let's see here. Slideshow. And you can't see, you can still see just me, because all right.
Let me do it.
All right. Oh, there we go. Share. Okay. And then right down there. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Let's see. Let's see. Yes. The slideshow. Okay. All right. So if you look up body capacitance in Wiki, right? We're not going to any special place. Says that body capacitance is the physical property of a human body to act as a capacitor. Like any other electrically conductive object, a human body can store electric charge if insulated. The actual amount of capacitance varies with the surroundings. It would be low when standing on top of a pole with nothing nearby, but high when leaning against an insulated but grounded large metal surface, such as a household refrigerator or a metal wall in a factory. So you can store up to 3,000 volts in your body. And that can be just with synthetic fabrics, as you can see down below. Some fabrics and friction can charge a human body to about 3,000 volts. So this creates problems within the body, the human body, right? I don't have the other screen. I could probably pull it up, but out in your email that you sent out, you showed how the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences shows that anything over 1 millivolt of internal electric fields is associated with cancer. And so 3 kilovolts is a lot. You want to discharge that, and you're not going to discharge it properly. According to this, you can actually charge your capacitance by grounding, right? Depends on what type of electricity is in the earth or the area. So I like to stand on a piece of metal or aluminum foil, and that's how I would discharge an electric charge inside my body. All right. All right, here we go. Now I'm going to go to the next one. I don't know how to go to the next one. Oh, it missed. You wanted me to talk about how I set up my Starlink. And this is the device right here. This is an Ethernet port. And I have a couple of these, otherwise it wouldn't be working. But I use Starlink, and I use this is not my microwave oven. It's a pretty dirty microwave oven. But you can use you can put your router inside a microwave oven and maybe have your handyman burr out a little area where you can put the cord inside it, because the frequency that they use to heat food is the same as what you would use for your Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigahertz. So it acts as a great Faraday cage for that. Yeah, you can pick one up at Goodwill. Going back over to let's see. Boy. You guys have already seen this. Is that right? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Did you want me to go through this again?
Please, please.
Okay.
We have new people on the call.
We have new people. Okay. Sorry. So
right.
my mentors are Professor Martin Graham. He's a professor of electrical engineering at UC Berkeley. Dave Stetzer, senior IEEE member, found that ground current affected cows, dairy cows, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court in 2 states, Minnesota and Wisconsin, Minnesota and Wisconsin, and they found the utilities, they were harming the ground current was harming the cows, and they had to pay a lot of money out. And to this day, they don't even try to take it to court. They just settle out. And then Sam Milham, MD, MPH, for the state of New York, and I think Washington, wrote a book called Dirty Electricity. Anyway, these guys, I'm standing on their shoulders. They taught me, well, Dave Stetzer and Sam Milham, Martin Graham, he's passed away. But they taught me pretty much everything that I know. So Martin Graham, these are a lot of his patents. So he's a real electrical engineer. All right. The spirometer was Martin Graham's invention. Dirty Electricity, that's the book. And this is Sam Milham's bio. And these are some of the papers that he's written about dirty electricity and frequencies in the earth that affected people. He did a study. Whoops, I don't know how to go back, but he did a not a study, but an experiment with school teachers in Washington it was in California. I'm sorry, librarians, and they were having horrible issues at this particular library. He cleaned up the power quality and tested their neurotransmitters via urine, of course, and found that when he changed the power quality and kept them away from contact current, the neurotransmitters rose in urine. Dave Stetzer, this is his background. Air Force trained, best electronic school in the world. He's got quite a background. So
Finally tonight,
whoops.
keeping boredom out of biology. A Harvard biology professor recently
Hold on a
was looking
second.
for a
Hold on a second here. I don't know how I'm going to play that. Oh, let's see here.
Finally tonight, keeping boredom out of biology. A Harvard biology professor recently was looking for a way to spice up his course and attract more biology majors. His idea? Get one of America's great animators to make a film showing what's going on in everyone's bodies right now. So what are Harvard students seeing these days? Our Robert Krulwich thought you'd be as fascinated as we were.
This is what a human cell looks like in a textbook, dull and still. But your cells are alive. They're in constant motion. They should be a movie, says Harvard biology professor Robert Liu.
I'm a big movie buff.
And so Professor Liu made a movie, an illustrated but scientifically accurate view of what goes on. For example, let's plunge down here and watch what happens when the cell wants to move something from deep inside the cell to the outside. First, proteins are just floating around and they suddenly come together to build a road.
But as you can see, they grow from little subunit, little smaller proteins coming together.
And this happens all the time.
It's happening all
So
the
the
time.
bones grow where they're needed. Like
Yes.
just like this.
Yes, absolutely. And now this is a more complex fiber.
It's
called the
coming
microtubule.
to be.
Exactly. Here it is falling apart.
And it does this as required.
Yes.
So we're going to create highways or bones of the skin. Oh, wait, what is this?
Yes. Now this is a protein called a motor
This
protein.
isn't real.
That
Right?
it is real. That's walking along one of those microtubules.
This clumpy thing?
Yes.
What
There,
is it? What
there
is
it is
dragging
again.
that huge sack?
So it's dragging this membrane sac full of proteins.
This is the stuff we want to get out of the cell. Now, how does it know what direction to go? If I told it turn around, would it be able to?
It can't because the foot only fits in one direction going one way.
So the grooves are preset to go in one particular direction.
Yes, yes.
And how many of these roads are being built every, second?
Oh, thousands. I mean, there are thousands of these fibers, if not tens of thousands in every cell. And also
In your
that-
cell right now,
Right now.
as you're looking all the time.
Right, and they're being built and they're being broken down.
And this is typical cell behavior, nothing special. There's the cargo being dumped out of the cell. So there you are sitting watching this on TV and you're thinking, well, I'm pretty much doing nothing. But your 72 trillion cells are a riot of magical, elegant, exquisitely organized activity in you right now. Robert Krulwich, ABC News, New York.
Makes you want to go back and take biology. That is world news for this Tuesday. I'm Charlie Gibson, and I hope you had a good day. For all of us at ABC News, have a good.
So why did I tell you that? Why did I bring that movie up? You could probably wonder, what the heck? This guy's really disorganized. So that's something that I show every one of my clients, and I just thought it was a fascinating thing. People just think that their cells are these blobs and there's not much going on, but they're really smart, and they're very complex. They say that they're more complex. Just one cell is more complex than the NASA space station. So anyway, they're pretty famous scientists there, James Rothman, Randy Schreckman, and Thomas Sudoff. They found that everything that had to happen at the right time in the right place inside these cells, otherwise you're going to have problems, as disturbances in this system have deleterious effects and contribute to conditions such as neurological diseases, diabetes, and immunological disorders. And so when I go into a house, I look for exposure that could create disturbances inside the human body, and that's how I get results, is by seeing this and stopping it. And it's amazing. It's as little as 4 days now on somebody getting their house cleaned up on a Friday and going in for a blood test because they have leukemia on a Monday and have everything come out normal. And this happens time and time and time again now. I was first told about this by Dave Stetzer, and it was hard to believe. And so I've duplicated it many times. Here's some more science about internal electric fields. This is from our government NIEHS report on health effects from exposure to power line frequency, electric and magnetic fields. It says that the magnetic fields, 100 microtesla is 1,000 milligauss. Convincing evidence for causing effects is only available for magnetic flux densities greater than 100 microtesla or internal electric field strengths greater than approximately 1 millivolt per meter. As you can see to date, there is no generally accepted biophysical mechanism by which actions of lower intensity EMF exposures, including those reported to be concerned in epidemiological studies, might be explained. On the next page, it states it twice, and I like the bottom sentence. It says studies at lower exposures are inconclusive. So 1 millivolt, you need 1,000 millivolts to create 1 volt. So that's a very small amount of electricity inside the human body. Here's another paper written by Rob Cavett and others. Rob Cavett's a very famous scientist with the Electrical Power Research Institute, Palo Alto, California. And what they found was in this paper that it wasn't the magnetic fields that was the problem. It was the contact current that created internal electric fields when they touch surfaces such as metal pipes. So people will have copper pipes in their homes, and by code, it must be grounded, right? So at your main panel is a huge ground wire. It goes down to your water line, and it depends if your water line's in the front of your yard and the power lines are in back of your yard, there could be more current traveling on those pipes. But from what I've found, everybody has frequencies on these pipes now. So I suggest people put in PVC, or not PVC, PEX between where it's grounded and the home's water lines, so that you don't get that exposure. But yeah, they found that this created leukemia in children, and it wasn't the magnetic fields, but it was the contact current. Here's a diagram of what's happening. Here you've got the chassis and then the ground, and the current's traveling from the chassis to the ground. Yeah, the absolute as well as modest level of contact current modeled is 18 microamps. So 18 microamps is, you have microamps, milliamps, and then amps. So this tiny little bit of current that's traveling between, in your body from these pipes or your stainless steel sink down to the floor can produce average electric fields in tissue that exceed 1 millivolt per meter. And so he in this paper, he cites the same paper that I just showed you previously. Increased cell proliferation, disruption of signal transduction pathways, and inhibition of differentiation. This is what the working group has found. All right. So how you measure that is with I use a Fluke 289, but I think you can use like a 189 or 187. They don't really make them anymore. This is the up-to-date one, and it's got a set 2 microamps. Well, I use this for this exposure, or to look at this exposure because of the ceiling of the frequency. So most multimeters only go up to 10 kilohertz, but this one goes up to 100,000 hertz, which is 100 kilohertz. So we don't want these frequencies present in our electric field. As you can see, that when frequencies are at 60 hertz, right here, the total body impedance is 3,000 ohms. But as you can see, when you get down into the 1.7, 2 kilohertz range, it drops to like around 500 ohms. So you want, you want clean electricity. That's why we clean up the electricity. You want clean electricity so that your body, your skin can protect you. They got this from a document I got from the Defense DoD site. You can't get it anymore, but I got it. It's declassified. It's Electrical Impedance of the Human Body by Herman Schwann. Also have another paper here that's declassified from the Defense Intelligence Agency, biological effects of electromagnetic radiation, radio waves and microwaves. So dirty electricity is in the microwave or is in the radio wave frequency. It's anywhere from 3 kilohertz up to 300 gigahertz. In this paper in the beginning, it's kind of interesting. They said if the more advanced nations of the West are strict in the enforcement of stringent exposure standards, there could be unfavorable effects on industrial output, military functions. So in this time, interestingly enough, my great uncle, discovered the microwave oven. I mean, yeah, he was a radar tech in Maine. And anyway, Percy Lords, I'm sorry,
Percy Spencer.
Percy Spencer, sorry. I don't know why I said Lords. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. No. But anyway, yeah, Percy Spencer. Yeah. So he wasn't blood, but he married my her grandmother's sister. And so that's kind of interesting. We didn't grow up with a microwave oven because of this. And it was kept really hush hush. And I didn't know that until my father died a couple of years ago. So my cousins knew about it in Maine, and kind of funny because one of them was head of the smart grid, he no longer is, but for the RF section in Maine. So we were both on the same sides or different sides, and I went back to visit, and yeah, it was interesting. They told me you have a famous ancestor, or somebody related in the family or whatever that was related to this, but they wouldn't tell me. But I found out a couple of years ago. Anyway, back to the paper, the action of microwaves on human erythrocyte permeability to potassium sodium ions was also investigated. So it says that the latter may be caused by the influence of UH energy on the membrane itself or on the hydrated sodium cation, potassium cation. So there it is, affecting the sodium and potassium in this paper. Affects the digestive system. All right, these includes disorders of edema of the bleeding gums, and alteration of gastric acidity. A lot of people have this issue today. There's another paper here from the Naval Medical Research Institute, and I'm not going to go through every one of them. There's 5 pages, but leukemia is in here. Diabetes. Sorry.
Paul, did I see the right, the year on it was 1976?
Yeah.
Was it? So we're looking at something that has been known already for almost 50 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
But yeah, but we had to keep our standards high to keep, the industrial, production and military functions, right? So that's why we kept it going. They knew about it.
Right.
It's real. Headaches, insomnia, EEG changes, affects your central nervous system, pretty much your whole body. Death, dehydration. Again, I see that with a lot of people. Insomnia, dizziness. Sometimes people have hallucinations, depends on what frequency is present. What I found, chest pains, tremor in the hands, impotence, depression. And I got to feel all of this when a smart meter was placed on my bedroom wall. So, and that's why I do this today is because I just wanted to know why. And this was one of the papers that I first pulled up when I was searching. Anyway, sorry, my wife just brought in the bird. Anyway, NASA has a paper on it, electromagnetic field interactions with the human body, observed effects and theories. And there's a list of things that I was experiencing anyways. Headaches, eye strain, fatigues, dizziness, disturbed sleep at night, moodiness, irritability, nervous tension, mental impairment, loss of hair. I lost quite a bit of that. I used to have heart palpitations, leg cramps at night, you name it, I had it. Yeah, it said difficulties with sex life at the end there. You go numb. So any of you that are married or whatever, and you're wondering, oh, it's me. It's there's a problem today with, I think they call it ED or something. Bradycardia, hypotension, increased fatigability, extreme irritability, sleepiness during work. So here's the mechanism of nerve conduction block that I was mentioning earlier, induced by high frequency biphasic electrical currents. So they're using just a small amount of voltage, and they're able to, as you can see in animal experiments, they're not doing it on squid or fish or whatever. They had 2 models, so it's not just one, it's 2. Greater than 6 kilohertz, and the other one was able to produce effects on the potassium and sodium ion channels, frequencies greater than 15 kilohertz. And this is in the dirty electricity frequency range, and it's also in the same range as wireless transmissions. So it's the information within the wireless transmission that your cells see, and not the microwave frequency. It's running too fast unless there's heat. And that was according to, I think I've got his thing in here. Result of low potassium, constipation, heart palpitation, extreme tiredness, muscle weakness and spasms, tingling and numbness. And that's why I really look for this information, is because I was waking up with numb hands, and I wasn't sleeping on them, and I'd never had that problem before. And once I found what the problem was, started sleeping with the power off, and even under a Faraday cage, it disappeared. I never woke up with any numbness at all. Sometimes I'd wake up with a numb face. It was horrible. All right, so type 2, so they're finding that low potassium and potassium problems affect diabetes, and that's one great thing that I've able to witness over and over again is once you clean this exposure up, doesn't matter if it's type 1 or type 2 diabetes. I've seen the numbers just drop, and I love diabetics because they monitor their glucose levels. They monitor it, some daily. They prick their skin, and in type 1, I had a client in Tucson. It was for the mother. She was worried about a cell phone tower up on top of the hill, and she had twins, and one had type 1 diabetes and the other one didn't. Well, we went into the bedroom of the type 1 diabetic, and it was high, sky high, and we went to the other one, and it wasn't. It was low. The exposure was very low. And interestingly enough, as I was cleaning up the house, just changing out light dimmers and then installing filters and looking for things that were creating it. And fortunately, it was a really easy fix, but they said that his sugar levels were at 420 or something, 420 or 430. Anyway, they were really high before I got there. And then I cleaned everything up. He had given himself an insulin shot, while I was there. And I cleaned up the power quality, and he fainted, and he had sugar levels in the 60s, 68, I think, if I can recall. And so it affected him greatly. And I ask clients to send me their blood sugar levels, and they do it for about a week, and then they stop because they're normal if they can control what's going on. Anyway, So here we are using kilohertz frequencies to create nerve block. More papers about that. I'm all about these kilohertz frequencies. It's something else. I don't know why I have that in there. Survey of
Yeah, Paul, if I can just interject,
Yeah.
just to kind of break it down for people. So all these, if you think about kilohertz, our brains and heart, so let's say our heart on average beats at 1 hertz, right? 1 beat per second. Our brains go from anywhere from 4 to 30 hertz, which is 4 to 30 beats per second. Our home wiring, anywhere from 50 to 60 beats per second. So, and that's in hertz, right? 1 cycle per second. But now you're talking about kilohertz and gigahertz. What do you think is going to happen to what your entire body, right? With potassium, calcium, all these things, when we're increasing the rhythm at which our cells are supposed to keep up, they're not dancing anymore. It's turning it into a mosh pit. So it's just another way to look at it. Anyway, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, some music, we're beings of frequency. In fact, there's a movie or a documentary called Resonance Beings of Frequency. I encourage you to watch that. It's kind of long. But yeah, you for people that don't like rap music, you're not going to react to it that well compared to people that like classical music or something soothing, right? So that's all frequency. So your body we like frequencies, and those are ones that our ears can hear anywhere from 20 kilohertz on down. Oh, tinnitus is another one. So a lot of times I'll go into homes where they got a plasma TV, or they got a very prominent 12 kilohertz on their line. I look at it with an oscilloscope, of course, and they'll have horrible tinnitus. They've tried everything. I had one guy that said if this didn't work, he was going to commit suicide. It was so bad. His tinnitus was so bad. And he had a plasma TV and he has horrible, dirty electricity. And he's still alive today. So we got rid of it. All right. So this is from the Air Force. And it shows where a person grounded is much more, the exposure to frequencies that are in the air is much greater when you're grounded compared to isolated. Here we go again. So you don't want to be grounded when you're around, microwave frequencies or anything like that in your home, or electric. Your body becomes a sponge, almost becomes an antenna. So they're using this stuff and as you can see, it's no longer classified. Bioeffects of selected non-lethal weapons, RF, radio frequency directed energy, incapacitating effects in the middle there. Disruption of neural control. So they're using this for a weapon, and I can see that it is possible. All right. This is my smart meter setup. We found in Arizona, where Warren Woodward, he took all this information to court. I was kind of like the background, giving him all the tech stuff or whatever. And this was the board, put a smart meter here and was able to test everything. And we were able to see, yeah, you don't want to be using a picoscope. You want to be using one of these. This was a waveform that we showed that it was producing 25 kilohertz along with many other microwave frequencies. That's when it was transmitting without a smart meter and with a smart meter. So there's a big difference. They're also called, so if you want to talk to utility, don't call it dirty electricity, even though they termed it that. You would want to call it supraharmonics. And supraharmonics are created through, do I have it on here? Electric vehicle charging. They found that electric vehicles were producing these frequencies in the 2 to 150 kilohertz range, and it was affecting the power line communications. Here we go. So Superharmonics are current and voltage waveforms distortion in the 2 to 150 kilohertz range created intentionally by power line communications. And this is what we found in New Mexico, staying up all night. Yeah, we found these frequencies in the ground. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but if anybody's, you know, worried about 10,000, sorry, microwatts per square meter, or actually 100,000 microwatts per square meter, that's equal to 6.14 volts per meter of an electric field in your house. So we can measure 6 volts pretty much everywhere. I've seen 50 or 60 volts at the per meter at somebody's the head of their bed, and that's equal to 10 million microwatts per square meter. And my meter only goes up to about 30,000 microwatts. So I see this all the time in people's homes. So that's why it's important to clean up the power quality, clean up those dirty electricity frequencies, and then go after this stuff, because most everybody's down in this 10,000 range, or 1,000 or 100 or down here, right? So you want to clean up this is a 600-pound gorilla in the room. This was from a smart meter data dump. There I was recording all night long in the middle of the desert. And we have this huge spike. I woke up at this time, and anyway, that's what a smart meter data dump looks like. Lasts for like 45 seconds. You can also measure it with a scanner. If you are waking up at a particular time every night, I don't know if you can see me on the LEDs, but anyway, I use a scanner to scan anywhere from 902 megahertz to 928 megahertz, and you'll hear it popping and carrying on. You can, whoops, what did I do there? Yeah. Real-time data for smart meter and common praxis. This was just how they're transmitting at least every 15 minutes or shorter, but their main data dumps take place in the middle of the night. So I had Go With Flow. She made this up. I told through somebody else, through a friend of hers, this is what I wanted. And so they made up this cartoon. You're going to see Go With Flow cartoons all over the place. And we made up quite a few of them. They're pretty good. This one showed that the smart meter frequencies and light and cell phone tower and Wi-Fi and everything are all EMF, right? Just the sun is natural. Well, what happened before we had man-made stuff, all we had was natural, right? So the cryptochrome back here in the behind the retina of the eye is a little magneto or a little EMF sensor. It's not like our eyes that are focused to or tuned to, the cones in the eye are tuned to different frequencies. The cryptochrome doesn't know the difference. Sends a message back through the suprachiasmatic nuclei to the pineal gland. The pineal gland produces melatonin. So if you have your cordless phone on right next to your bed, or your baby monitor, or you got the cell phone or the Wi-Fi on, you're not going to be creating the melatonin. And if you look at cancer patients, they all have low levels of melatonin. So it's good to have melatonin. Oops. Wow. This is where this was taken by a client of mine, came out to visit to see what the heck I was up to. And I was sleeping in a cave at night. I was sleeping in this cave at night to get away from the cell phone tower waves. There wasn't anything, but I was in the earth. So my sleep wasn't that great, but at the time I thought it was the place to be. So I've experimented with earthing and that whole thing, and found it to be, it was making people sick, making a lot of my clients sick, actually. All right, so 5G. 5G uses kilohertz frequencies for the information, right? So you're going to hear a lot out there that they're worried about the millimeter wave and everything. Well, the millimeter wave doesn't really penetrate the skin and your cells don't see it, but it sees the information, sees these, subcarrier spacing frequencies, 15, 30, 60, 120 kilohertz. And 5G is kind of dangerous because they don't have to use these millimeter waves. They can use TV carrier waves. So like 700 megahertz, 800 megahertz. 5G is the 5th generation, and this is why it's really hard to clean up some homes in 5G areas, because you can't block anything from, nothing blocks it. I've measured it in basements. It's a little lower in the basements, but I've measured it underneath canopies. It's everywhere. That was in Boston back in 2017, 18 or so, in a suburb, in a pilot neighborhood. The kids were waking up every 45 minutes and looked like raccoons. They had big black circles around their eyes. Nobody could figure out what was going on. And parents were going through a divorce. Lady across the street was, had died in the middle of the night. And anyway. All right. So Kirchhoff's law, I have this in here because to measure, this body voltage that you're going to see out there, they're using a multimeter. They're putting one probe in the ground and then holding the other one in your hand. And that's not how you measure body voltage. It's not used anywhere, and all it's doing is measuring the difference of potential. Some batteries. I don't know why batteries use potassium. I don't know why I have that in there. Here we're back with dirty electricity and how it elevates blood sugar. Magda Havas found down here that it was affecting type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and I have to concur with her conclusions. I've been able to see this reduced or just disappear every time. I've never seen anything where it continued, where dirty electricity can. Oh, here we go. This is my I encourage you to look up Dr. George Carlo. I'm not going to play this whole thing, but this guy was head of the $28.5 million cell phone study back in the 90s. And so the way you're going to find that is either get a hold of me or look up dangers of Wi-Fi and cell phones. So
to give you some context,
anyway,
what I'm going to be talking about is to direct your attention to the 2 screens.
And what he showed you in those screens was what I showed you with the cell. And Dr. George Carlo, I don't know how to pause that, but anyway, he was really discarded by the people that were in the EMF community. He was physically attacked and his house was burned down. He went into hiding for 7 years because in that video, it's about 30 minutes long. I'm sure you guys don't have that kind of time, but he explains that it's the information that the cells see. It was the kilohertz frequencies that the cells see, not the microwave, not the carrier wave. So there's going to be an argument out there that, well, it doesn't affect you unless there's heat. And I would kind of have to agree, because it's what your cells see, not what they don't see. They don't see that microwave frequency, but it's just the carrier, right? It gets those into your body. And anyway, he was discarded, and things could have been a lot different if the industry had listened to him. Because I think wireless communications, if we kept it up in the megahertz range, we wouldn't be seeing the problems that that are happening today. But who knows? Body capacitance, your body sucks this stuff up. I already had showed you this. I got ahead of myself. And it's good to discharge it. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, George Carlo, I'm in touch with him actually, and he may be coming on our podcast soon. You
Oh, good.
encourage us to get a hold of him, and yeah, he was really a whistleblower that not a lot of people know about, but yeah, he was kind of like that guy who grew a conscience, and he stood against everything that was coming across his desk at the time. He was I think a lawyer, right, for the telecommunications industry, or
He was a scientist. He
or
was hired
scientist.
as a
Oh,
scientist.
okay.
He was the head scientist.
Hmm.
$2.5 million. That happened back when Larry King. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
But Larry King had brought somebody on where their wife had brain tumor, and it was right where the antenna was, and so he was suing the telecom communications, and so the next day the stocks dropped, and there were hearings before Congress, and they're like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And they said, "Well, we have all these studies." Well, they had studies that I'd showed you earlier about the microwave oven, but nothing for cell phones. So they conducted this cell phone uh, uh, study, and he was in charge of it, and they thought he was going to be, on their side, right? Tom Wheeler was head of the was the head of the telecommunications thing back there, and it's kind of funny because he was head of the FCC for 8 years and said that we're not going to test if 5G is going to be a problem or not.
Wow.
From 2008 to I think 2000 and what was it, 2008 to 2012 or anyway. But George Carlo was a scientist. He's a PhD. I think he's a epidemiologist also. And so he found the problem. There's lots of there's a couple of other videos that are out there, but they're really hard to find. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Paul. And Paul, maybe tell people that don't know about you, because you've been going through this since 2011 when the smart meter was installed on your house, but you've traveled all around the world and helped. I mean, how many people do you think since in your career?
I don't know. I haven't really, it's been people that are just reaching out that are suffering and don't know. And I got the equipment and I know how to hook things up, and we'll do anything. We'll even stay up all night long, right? With Gerald. And I'm sorry, Gerald, I didn't recognize you. You look great if you're still there. Hopefully you're doing good. But yeah, it's I got into it just because I thought I was going to stop the smart meters. And then Warren Woodward, back in 2016 says, you're going to have to reinvent yourself and go out there and help people and do this. And I tried to learn everything that I possibly could learn. And I went to this, I couldn't have done it actually without Stetzer and Milham. Milham taught me some stuff that are, it's pretty cool. And, but anyway.
Oh, yeah, you're very humble, Paul, but I appreciate it. You're like me. Yeah, anyway, we have lots of questions. So first, Duncan had a question about the smart meter. He says it's 120 feet from his house on a transformer vault, and he thought that it was safe, but he now worries about power line communications using the home wiring. So I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Yeah. Well, Gerald can be a witness to that. And thanks, Gerald, for showing up and being there to back me up there on that. Yeah, power line communications, the only way you're going to stop this exposure is to shut off all the power to your house, except to the fridge and your heating, whatever. And live with batteries and battery lights and that's the only thing I can tell you. You can't stop it. It's on the ground wire. It's the neutral wire. That's what they're using. And it radiates into your house. It goes through your floor if you're on concrete. If you're on a wood floor, that's better. Or something to insulate you. Don't walk around barefoot, in your house. Yeah, I think that's it.
Now, what about the filters though, right? Because if you have a dirty electricity, like the Stetzer filter, if you put it on the
It
near
won't
the,
stop it. It won't stop it. There's
well,
nothing
it'll,
you can do.
well, it'll stop the dirty electricity from the smart meter.
No.
Oh, okay.
Powerline Communications uses the neutral. It's designed to get through everything.
Hmm, I see.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah. And they're using frequencies and 2-3 kilohertz. Those filters only work for 4 kilohertz on up to
Gotcha.
100 kilohertz. They're capacitors. So yeah.
Gotcha. Because some of the smart meters emit at like 50 kilohertz, right? So then, like the wireless ones emit at 50.
I've recorded 10, 20. I know Dave Stetzer's recorded 50 kilohertz. That board that I had set up, we submitted 3 different kilohertz frequencies to the Arizona Corporation Commission when it went before a rate case judge here in Arizona. We have a $5 opt out because of Warren Woodward, of course. He used that information, and he used Milham's testimony. Along with, we hired in an electrical engineer to just say, yeah, this is what's going on. I witnessed everything, and he had all the, court certifications behind him. But yeah, we took this to court, and I think we won. They couldn't answer our questions. If you go to my YouTube channel, Total EMF Solutions on YouTube, and go scroll through, and you'll find the hearing, the witness, and you'll see that they couldn't answer our questions. So anyway.
So, so in Duncan's case, I'm just thinking, so if you can't get an analog meter, because analog meters, I'm being told by the Ontario Hydro One here, they're saying, well, we don't even make them anymore, right? We don't have them. If you can't get an analog, which is the best solution, would it be better to even have a wireless meter and then you just shield it?
Well, if they're using Powerline Communications, it goes everywhere. It doesn't distinguish.
That's what I mean, if you change it out for a wireless meter.
So the Powerline Communications are sent from the substation. They're sent from the utility.
Mm-hmm.
So they travel throughout the whole area. It doesn't matter what kind of meter he has on his property.
So even if you change out, because to my understanding, there's 2 types of meters, right? There's a PLC and then there's a radio frequency. So if you change it out with the radio frequency meter, and then shield the radio frequency meter, would that be a better solution than having the Powerline Communications meter?
Well, the Powerline Communications, they send this through your wiring in your house. You can't stop it. They're sending it from miles and miles and miles away. They have little repeaters on the electric grid. The whole grid is disturbed. So it's not the meter itself. The meter itself will just transmit, back to the utility, whatever it is, but you're not going to stop a Powerline Communications. It doesn't say, okay, we're going to go to this house and, we're not going to go to the house next door.
So
does that make sense?
So yeah. So even if you have a radio frequency smart meter, you're saying it still uses the Powerline Communications.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
In Tucson, my father and mother-in-law, they opted out, but they're using a meter that can communicate with the grid. The Focus AXRSD meter. It's very dirty, and it's, I can't stop this. I can't stop the communications because it's got grid stream. So the grid stream is really bad.
Grid stream is just currents coming from the substation or
frequencies. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So now I'm curious because you know, if that notice of liability would be a strategy, because in Ontario, it's my understanding that analog meters are being phased out. So I don't know what kind of options people have here, you know, anymore.
Mhm. I think in Gerald's house, Gerald, wasn't it an analog meter that was on your home?
Well, you arrived at our request because at some point, not realizing it, we had a smart meter, and I wanted to find out if a lot of what I'd been reading about them was so, and we showed that. They, some 20 years before that, had decided to go with smart meters. And this was more confirmation than anything else. We did not have an analog meter.
Hmm.
We did not, it didn't get switched out. Currently, we have what is called a digital meter. And the trouble with digital meters, and you might want to take a minute or two to talk about this, switching mode power supplies are their own problems. And because the DC components of a digital meter as well as a smart meter require DC, and you could get it better if you had conventional transformers and a bridge rectifier, but they don't do that anymore.
Mhm.
They use switching mode power supplies, which is real messy stuff. And if you want to take a minute or two, I'm sure people would be interested to hear about that. And then I have a question of my own.
Well, Paul, did you hear that, or?
Yeah. The switch mode power supplies. Yeah.
Yeah.
The switch mode power supplies. Not all digital meters. I know Phoenix or APS, Arizona Public Service, uses a meter that's clean. Well, I've tested a few of them, and they didn't
Really?
produce anything. Yeah, digital meters. Yeah, but not all. Like I said, the Focus AXR SD with the radio off is still a
How,
nightmare.
how do they get the DC if they don't use SMTP?
They've got capacitors in there to short those frequencies out. So they're
Well,
using some.
all right, that's
It's on
very true.
accident, I guess.
That's very true.
Yeah. Yeah, like the GE, I think they use the GE up there, the digital meter. I've tested like 4 different digital meters, and they all came back clean. Now things have changed from, back when we were screaming about it, to now. In some cases, I think, in Phoenix anyway, APS stayed with that clean digital meter, and I'm able to get results in those homes. But boy, the ones that are, the focus is bad. Anyway.
Do you have time for a question?
Yeah.
Early in your talk today, you talked about putting the modem inside an unused microwave.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just get the provider to turn off the
Wi-Fi.
the Wi-Fi and just use wired connections between the modem router and your computer? I know it's a bit of a nuisance, but guess what? Your health is much better off without that
Right.
kind of radiation, and they will turn them off if you ask them to do that.
Some can't. Some that have been on the phone with them and they were talking with the tech, it'll turn off and then it turns right back on again. In my case, I use Starlink. I'm so far out that I don't have any power lines or nothing. I'm totally off grid. So I have to use Starlink, and Starlink, won't turn off the Wi-Fi on their modem. So I have to place it in the garage, run a line to the house that's hardwired via Ethernet.
Ethernet, yeah. They won't, or they can't turn it off.
They can't. And sometimes you're going to run into that with providers. using their modems, and I can't, man. I bet if
Can't you-
somebody were to talk
Can't-
about it, there are some.
Can't you pick a modem? Even
Pardon
if
me?
you got to buy it, can't you pick a modem? Even if you were to buy it, could be disabled in terms of Wi-Fi.
That'll happen. That is definitely what I tell everybody to do, is buy their own modem. But those things are changing, like CenturyLink, which is DSL, they won't turn it off.
Oh, you're right about that.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. No, thank you, gentlemen. I just want to make sure we cover everyone's questions. So we
Yeah.
just, but that's a great, thank you, Gerald, for bringing that up, because it is a reality. There are modems out there that, you can look into that do it, but sometimes it's not a possibility. So, we did have, a question from, let's see. All right. Robin had asked a question. She had to jump off the call, but she recently watched a video of a farmer charging a capacitor under high voltage power lines. He strung a wire on 2 fence posts and attached a capacitor to the fence. It charged to 1,000 volts within about 10 minutes. Could it be that he was also charged by the ambient electricity from the power lines? He didn't touch the fence wire. A multimeter, it was conducting about 0.5 volts multimeter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what the Air Force found. That one paper that I showed you, if he's grounded, he's going to be getting more voltage inside his body, is going to become more charged if he's grounded. I remember in Colorado, I had this lady, her garden was right underneath some power lines, and it was incredible, the exposure. And she would go out there barefoot. I said, well, at least wear some rubber boots or something, something to keep you isolated from that earth.
And that's why you were saying too, that if you stand on aluminum foil, it sounds counterintuitive because well, aluminum, but so if you stand on aluminum foil, it discharges those excess electrons in your body, right? It's like acts like as a capacitor.
Yeah, in that video that she mentioned, I think I've seen that one where he runs a screwdriver across the 2 leads, and so you're using your feet as the leads to discharge. He's getting quite a zap from it.
Yeah,
but it's metal. I said aluminum foil because it's cheap. Everybody has it. Nobody's got a nice big piece of metal, stainless steel or whatever. You're just bringing taking a shower will dissipate that charge too. So before you go to bed, especially before you go to bed.
Yeah. Go ahead, Fiona, or Fiona's partner.
Hi, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I can.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions if we can. One, we live in the country with very, very poor cell service. Well, I've looked at cell tower locations, and they're quite far away, at least sort of 6-7 kilometers away. You had mentioned turning the power off in the house. And so right now, our house, which has a metal roof, wood floors, little 1-story house in the country, and our smart meter is, both meters are out in the shop, so at least a couple of 100 feet away. So you had mentioned shutting off the power other than, say, for example, to the fridge. So that would mean that, does that mean that I could turn every breaker in the house except the main breaker off other than to the fridge? That's one question. And would that do anything?
Yeah. So going back to that conversion chart, like 6 volts per meter, you're basically sitting in an antenna, a very, very strong antenna, when those kilohertz frequencies are present, because your skin impedance, your body impedance changes when they're present. So in a home that doesn't have a smart meter and you've got nice clean power, you can keep all the power on. It doesn't hurt you. It's actually therapeutic. They use 60 hertz for therapy. So what you're doing is you're shutting down an antenna of kilohertz frequencies. 10, 20, 30 kilohertz or whatever. So that's why I tell people to shut the power down if you cannot turn the smart meter off.
So, but I'm just not understanding what you're saying about shutting the power off. You're not talking about shutting the main breaker to the whole
No.
house off, because then, so
Yeah.
you're talking about shutting all of the
Yeah.
breakers off. For example,
Right.
at night, we heat
Yeah.
with a wood stove.
Yeah.
So just shut
Yeah.
all the breakers off except
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
to your
that's going to
bedroom.
help a lot.
Yeah. Pardon me?
Sorry. And yeah. And did you say to the bedroom or something, or to the?
Well, just to the whole, if you do the whole house, and why I say that is because I've been out to homes before where they said, oh, I've shut off the breakers to my bedroom. And it actually raised the electric field in their room because there was another line running behind the wall and it was on a different phase. And so now, because those two phases were together, or, closely directly together, the electric field was very small. So, and I've seen up to 11 circuits affect the bedroom area. So if you just go out and hit everything except the fridge, you're gonna be able to have a better chance of stopping that electric field.
Okay, couple of things. And so then the other thing is, right now we have our Wi-Fi modem in the house, and I subfeed it to our workshop and suite out a couple of 100 feet away. And there's a router out there to provide power. But what I'm hearing is that if we put the modem out there and reverse the situation and put the router here, would that be a better system?
I would do that.
Okay. And then so all this that we're hearing about grounding and grounding mats for people to sleep on and stuff, that's basically just a complete no-no.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen people with leukemia and pancreatic cancer and all sorts. In fact, Dr. Sinatra died of pancreatic cancer, and he was a big proponent. He was a heart surgeon, big proponent for earthing. And I can't tell you how many clients. In fact, I get a lot of clients because they were earthing and they weren't getting results. And so they called me and I came out, showed them what was going on. And
well, as disheartening as that is, that's great information. We've been making a point of taking our shoes off every day and going and sitting outside in our garden and walking the grounds and whatnot. So thank you for that. And thank you for the questions. I appreciate that.
Oh, thanks for them. Yeah.
My
pleasure.
And I will say too, with the grounding thing, of course, if you're in touch with your body and you feel like it's okay, maybe it is. I mean, I don't, like to, I used to take my shoes off a lot more in my backyard. There's been so much building in our town that I don't feel comfortable anymore. But if I'm by the shore or by the ocean, I mean, who knows? There could be ground current going through there. But you just got to be careful. Bodies of water, to my understanding, are naturally Faraday cage. So maybe, you could be okay there. I don't know, Paul, if you have any comments on that. Like there are certain areas of Florida that aren't as electrified. The Western Florida. So yeah, it's kind of a crazy situation, but the only way really to know is have either Paul come out or have the fluke meter that Paul uses to tell.
Yeah. The sand. So sand isn't a good conductor. So you're not getting any ground current at the ocean or at the beach. You have to have moisture and you have to have the minerals in the ground. So in order for, and you can look this up on YouTube. I think there was a video there showing that the guy had one lead going into a glass of water and the other one going into another glass of water, and it wouldn't light the light bulb until they put potassium in there.
Yeah.
And so that was my point about the battery. You need potassium. It's a good conductor. Yeah.
That's why you have sweat glands on your feet, because it's electrically conductive.
Well, yeah, your feet, I can see how some people go out and they ground, they feel so much better. Yeah, because they could be absorbing a frequency that is a nerve block frequency. So
may I ask one more question? Just
everything's a poison.
Again?
Yeah.
And so you talk about, particularly at night before you go to bed, is that like standing on a piece of metal? I can find big pieces of sheet metal.
Mhm.
And you're saying put that on the ground and then just stand on it for a few minutes and do that before bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Otherwise,
can
you
you-
store that energy all night long,
And do you do it in the house or outside?
right there next to the bed.
Right next to the bed, and tinfoil will work.
Yeah, and don't use any synthetic materials like synthetic, those fluffy comforters, or stay away from anything that creates static. I like cotton, and up in your part of the area, they say cotton kills, but
But cotton, wool, that sort of thing.
we'll create a charge, so you got to stick with cotton.
So here we are with a beautiful Hudson's Bay wool blanket on, sleeping underneath every night. My dear mother would roll over in her grave.
I'll take it. You send it to me. I'll
Yeah,
take it.
really. eBay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the comforters and that sort of thing, just make sure it's a cotton comforter and no synthetic material.
Yeah, no
And
synthetic
linen's
material.
the same, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, and just sorry to belabor this point, but I'm fascinated by the tinfoil and the steel. Any particular amount of time you would stand on that thing?
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Okay.
Yeah, you can use a meter. Oh man, what is the name of that meter? It's not right off but they actually have a meter that measures capacitance, and you can watch it go down as you're standing on it. So 90 seconds is what we found.
And what kind of meter would we buy?
Like I said, I can't think. It's a
Paul, I'll send a recap email to everyone. So
Yeah.
maybe Paul, if you
that's if you're
email me.
curious. I mean, it's a waste of money otherwise. but
Oh,
it's a-
I see. Yeah,
it's a
right. You're just
capacitor meter.
watching. Yeah, got it. You're just watching what's happening anyway.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Okay, and so yeah, thank you. And I just have a couple more questions. Amit and Barb had 2 questions, and then anybody else after that, if I'm missing you, I apologize. But Amit had a question about his power going out, and so he watched. Sorry, where is his question? Basically, the magnetic field went up after the power went out, and let me see.
Ask.
Okay, sorry, trying to find this question here. All right, so he has an 11 kilovolt transmission line behind his home, and about a week ago, power went out for less than an hour, and the magnetic field stayed at about 1 milligauss for about 12 hours after the outage. Then the magnetic field became very strong at about 20 milligauss during the daytime and about 10 milligauss in the early morning. So what may be behind that spike?
Ground current.
Ground current, right? Because it's like off, and then it's just kind of
Yeah.
and it's coming back.
Yeah, ground current, and then during the daytime, maybe people are using their utilities more, and that's why it's going up, because of the flow.
One more little thing that my wife just asked me. We just got her one of those red light therapy lamps that you lie under. Any comments on those? Like infrared saunas, infrared light therapy lamps, a big 5-foot thing you lie under, 240 of these red lights.
Could be a problem.
Could be a problem.
Yeah, because it needs electricity.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
now you're putting yourself close to whatever's on the wires in that house. You're putting them really close to you. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a company out of Missouri actually that I know the owner, and I'm an affiliate for them, but they're called Sauna Space, and they actually have a Faraday wrapped infrared sauna. So they've tested it. So basically it's a sauna that you buy, and it eliminates electromagnetic fields when you're inside due to the Faraday cage. But yeah, and that's why they created it, because so many of the infrared saunas were doing more harm than good, right? You go in there and you're frying yourself. So I can send a link out with the email to everybody who joined, and I'll if you want to check them out. But yeah, it's definitely something, if you get an EMF meter you know, that what you have now. Yeah, maybe test it out, see again if it's what it's emitting.
Where would one get an EMF meter? Amazon?
I would get it from Safe Living Technologies. They, you know, they're independently owned. They have their meters third party tested. They're in Ontario. I don't know if Rob has any recommendations, but, or I'm sorry, Paul has any recommendations, but yeah.
You're going to need an oscilloscope. You're going to need an oscilloscope for that. I mean, the oscilloscope's the only thing that's going to show you, you know, what the exposure is, other than a NFA 1000. So Gigahertz Solutions make us an NFA 1000. It's like $2,200. The equipment to measure this stuff. Yeah, don't waste your time with this cheap stuff. A lot of times they'll just, you know, say, oh, you gotta go out and get a, like a, oh, I forget what they call them, but tri-field meter. Yeah. And they use their tri-field meter and see there's nothing here. And
So are there
it's
people
not
that,
the case at all. Yeah.
One other thing then, would there be folks, you know, how would you look for somebody to come in and, you know, who has more of the technical, you know, the technical experience to come and look at possibly cleaning up your house? Are there folks out there that are, you know, privy to all this information, and how does one find one and that sort of thing, rather than trying to become an expert in all these fields?
So where are you at? You're in Vancouver?
We're on the west coast of Vancouver, or on Vancouver Island, west coast of Canada.
Yeah. Dave Stetzer or myself, unfortunately. There's the building biologists are not trained how to do this at all.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about it because they didn't listen to Dave Stetzer. They're little self-certified institution, and I hate to talk bad, but they really, you know, they told people not to use his filters and kind of made him mad, you know, and really hurt him when he was trying to help people.
Well, you
And
know what? We're
so
really good cooks, and we have lots of airline points. And
Vancouver's a great place to go. I love that area. I used to back in my 20s, I used to on the way back from commercial fishing in Alaska, I used to stop off at the Nass River area.
oh, beautiful.
By terrace or whatever, and pick pine mushrooms.
You bet. Yeah. Well, you just let us know. We'll have a ticket in the mail.
Well, you know, I'll do it. No problem. You can contact me, Paul at totalemfsolutions.com.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I think I wrote that down.
Yeah, Paul at totalemfsolutions.com. Yep. Or you can get a hold of the power couple, and then he can get a hold of me too. If you guys all he was the one who's putting me up here. So
Yeah, I'll send out an email to everyone to recap. We have one more question, and Barb just wanted us to maybe go through the whole sand barefoot walking example again. Barb Payne. So when somebody's walking on the beach, right, barefoot, it's not conducting ground current, but is it enough to for us to gain electrons from the earth as we would naturally? You know what I mean? Because like I know the sand doesn't conduct the ground current EMF because it's not wet, but in your opinion, would it be enough for us to actually get the positive benefits, right?
So the positive benefits are to dissipate that body capacitance, right? Yeah, just get rid of that.
Okay.
It's get rid of the your cells are so complex. They don't need any interference. They're doing their own thing. I mean, go back and watch that video, The Inner Life of a Cell. It's amazing. You know, they don't need anything from the earth. In fact, they did an experiment in resonance beings of frequencies. They had these people, this professor had these people living underground, and they got sick until he pumped in the frequency of the earth. And that's outside the earth. It's not in, you know, it's in 7.8 or whatever hertz or whatever the hertz. that frequency, you're getting it from outside, not inside the earth. And I don't know. I tell people, and I know it's just really hard to get, because the earth is where we live, right? But I think it's a place, it's a great place to go when you die. Eats you up pretty good, right? Takes care of that and everything. But as far as living, I don't want to be in the
Come on,
earth. I want
Paul.
to be out of the earth. I don't
Stop
want to be
it.
in the earth.
Well, I don't know.
all this, huh?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, all the science that I have and from the experience, and I wish, I should have invited him. And it's kind of cool that Gerald showed up, but the people that were earthing are really upset. I mean, they've been doing it for 10, 20 years. And I've seen grounding sheets, a lot of these grounding sheets that they say to stick in the outlet. These people that wrote these papers, if you look at who benefited, or what their interests were, or not what their interests were, but how they have to say, who inspired them or whatever. They were all part of this Earthing Institute thing. And these sheets that they were promoting, they were telling you to go stick that in the ground, right there at the receptacle. And the ground wire goes to the panel on your house, right out to the main panel, and is at the same bus bar, same point as your neutral. And why we have a ground is just to keep in case something happens to the neutral, the return current goes on the ground wire. And it'll be safe, because if it wasn't there, it could be, it could zap your equipment, right? If you don't have a return for alternating current, you're welding. That's what happens when you're welding. The electrons are right there, and you get quite a spark. And I don't know if any of you have ever worked around electricity, but the arc that you get when you shunt that power, it'll melt your screwdriver or pliers or anything. And so going back to the sheets, a lot of the sheets now that I measure with a multimeter, I look for continuity, and my Fluke meters are very sensitive, and they'll measure very, very high in the ohms, and there's no continuity. So they've got this wire that goes out and plugs into the ground, into your outlet, but there's no continuity. So what's going on? Whereas people that do a good job and make sure that they connect to that ground, and there's voltage on that ground wire, by the way, 2-3 volts. Those are the people that are getting sick. The other people don't seem to be getting sick, but I would never sleep on a piece of metal, and that it's a conductive. That's what the sheet is being a conductive, yeah,
yeah, no, I hear you. And that's, yeah, for sure.
It's just all wrong, but it's right to them. So,
well, the earth isn't a sponge, it's a conductor, right?
Yeah.
So okay, just Barb also said she recently moved from most of her lifetime being in Toronto to the tiny airport town directly on the Atlantic Ocean, Newfoundland. Okay, her experience is that there's almost never any static electricity there. But she did have one question on the Stetzer filters. Oh, sorry. Let's see here. Does it matter whether or not the sand is wet? I mean, if it's wet, it conducts electricity, but if it's not, then it's
the minerals in the sand too. So
right.
The potassium,
and what you're inhaling with that sand too. So being on the beach is also beneficial in that regard, right? If you're inhaling them.
I love being on the beach. There's no transformers out there. Typically they won't have no transformers at the beach. Right? No
Exactly.
cell phone towers out in the ocean, that I know of.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, I don't know. They kind of ruined it there over in California. I remember going over there and feeling a heck of a lot better than I did, but Another thing is the oxalates, that's a whole nother subject, but the foods with high oxalates made me super sensitive, whereas I got rid of those and I can withstand a lot now. I used to not be able to fly, or flying really wiped me out and almost kill me. In fact, it felt like it. And now that I stay away from those, I don't feel this stuff anymore.
But sorry, one more question. I appreciate this. What about using cell phones? Like if one got rid of Wi-Fi and went with all wired connections, which I understand is a good idea. That's sort of a question as well. And but how is there a way of connecting your cell phones to be able to use them in a non-Wi-Fi environment?
There used to. Verizon had an app where I could use an iPad. I made a video of it. In fact, I got to take it down because they changed the app and you're not able to hardwire it in anymore. But yeah, there used to be a way. And if you're far away from those cell phone towers, your phone's working really hard. You probably go through quite a bit of battery, and it's the exposure is much higher living far away from a cell phone tower. If you've got 1 or 2 bars, that's pretty strong. I suggest using a VoIP phone, a hardwired VoIP phone.
A VoIP phone, you mean like an old analog phone?
Like voice over internet protocol, VoIP.
Oh, okay.
So using your internet, bringing a hardwired line into your house from your modem that's out in the garage or whatever, and
yeah,
and then using a phone that you can connect with the internet. GoTo is another good app for that, but yeah, GoTo. Zoom, I think, has an internet.
So you're saying that we have 1 bar of service. So you're saying that our exposure is higher with 1 bar.
It is. It's super high.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because there's a variable gain antenna on your cell phone. It isn't just sending out the same signal all the time. It's working harder when you don't have a good signal.
So no happy solution there at the moment. Voice over
internet protocol. VoIP. Yeah. VoIP is.
Can I offer a comment about VoIP?
Yes, sir.
You got to be really careful as you talk to a company that is only interested in making a connection. We have VoIP because it's a lot cheaper, but they make claims, and I'm not going to mention the name. They make claims that when it fails, they don't want to explain why. So you got to be really careful to ask all the questions up front with a warm body who's selling VoIP.
Yeah, true.
Even more than a landline. Landlines I hate anyhow, but VoIP, cheap as they are, you got to be really careful.
Thank you for that, Gerald. We just have one more question because I know it's getting a little late, but let's see. Ellie, she had a question on Ellie, right? That's how you say your name? Okay. Connecting with the Earth in a low EMF area is connecting with the Schumann resonance. So the Schumann resonance and grounding, they're actually kind of 2 different things. Because people talk about grounding, you're gaining electrons. Schumann resonance is a frequency that's it's creating the electrical field of the Earth. So like those diagrams that Paul had put up there with the electrical field being higher, right? It's higher at our head and it's lower on the ground. It's that Schumann resonance, that frequency of 8 to 30 hertz is running. It's like an electrical current, right? It's running through the air, through the Earth. But that's not the same thing as electrons or energy or electricity we're getting from the ground, I should say. So that's 2 different things. But that being said, my take is if you're in the woods or in the beach or in the middle of a national park, even if there's ground current, I still view it as beneficial and from the angle of the Schumann resonance, because you are putting yourself in that earth-friendly environment at least. So that's my take, but yeah.
It bounces off the atmosphere.
Forest.
Schumann's resonance bounces off the atmosphere.
Right, exactly. That's where we get lightning strikes and all that stuff. That's like the heartbeat of the earth, right?
The U.S. military also uses the earth as a transmitter, like for submarines. In order for a submarine to come to the surface, it gets a signal, and the signal is very strong. It's created in one is in Cutler, Maine, Cutler Island, and the other one's in Washington. And they send a signal through the earth and the ocean, and anybody who has a submarine out there, China, Russia, or whatever, we see it. I see it. I stick probes in the ground. And it's like, well, this is definitely communications. So now you've hooked yourself to that. Now you're getting those communications in your body. Your cells are seeing that. And you're doing it long periods of time. People at night and stuff,
Yeah. And that's why exactly, Paul, I was really enamored by what you were saying, because I was grounding too. And, you said so many earthers got upset. I was happy. I'm like, oh, this makes sense. Finally, okay, I can move on and get to the truth, because that's why we embrace this whole less is more approach. We try to help people by, again, we call ourselves the power couple because we say power on with light, power off at night. So all you need to do, get outside in the sun and shut off as much power as you can at night. And all right, then if you want to start taking the supplements and doing all this stuff, great. But until you can do the basics, that's going to help you. It's what helped us, just having those boundaries.
And look for FM radio stations or radio stations that could be close to you. That happened just recently, where the FM radio station was so strong, and they just the way they were located, it was nothing I could do. I can't fix that. So you can go to antennasearch.com and put your address in or put your zip code in, and it'll show you the antennas that are around you. And that's another thing too. If you're sleeping on a bed with metal springs in it, it could be amplifying that. You can actually hook up a speaker to your bed springs or whatever. Get a radio station on some of them. Yeah, in fact, I was able to, I was using one of these. It's just HF59B with a omnidirectional antenna, and just touching the top, that we could hear every single, every beat, we knew exactly what, it was just like turning on a radio. We were just using their body as an antenna. That's another thing too, you gotta be careful of.
Yeah. Well, so Paul, thank you for coming on. And I just wanted to mention everyone. So sorry, Paul, was there anything else you wanted to say before? Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you again for everybody for joining us. I'm sure you got some great value and valuable insights out of this. I know I keep learning, and just want to let you know that next Thursday, because Ellie mentioned too, that we need to detox for heavy metals, things like this. And that's what our topic is going to be next Thursday: neurodegeneration, dementia, Alzheimer's, and how that can form, and the synergistic component of metals, and why that's important with EMF, and what we can do about it, and how the process works biologically, so we can understand how to stay sharp mentally in the modern day of dementalizing. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And yeah, until next time, I guess have a good night, and power off at night. Get that sunrise. See ya.